Hello there, hope you're doing well. In this video I will be going in depth over Baal, the Electro Archon's abilities, and her best team compositions. So she will be coming into the game in less than 2 weeks from the time of this video's release, in patch 2.1. And in a future video I will release an in-depth guide on how to best prepare for her. If you find the content of this video helpful, please consider leaving a like, and subscribe for more Genshin Impact content. With that out of the way, let's get right into the video. So starting off with Baal's elemental skill, when you first use her skill, she does an initial slash in front of her, and then after that slash is over, she summons an eye above her head, and essentially this eye acts very similarly to Fischl's Oz. Every time you attack an opponent with any ability, normal attack skills, burst damage, any damage really, the eye unleashes a coordinated attack on that enemy, and this coordinated attack does AoE electro damage. Now looking at her skill modifiers for this ability, you'll notice that the modifiers are not very high. However, it triggers every 0.9 seconds, which is very frequent. So think of this ability as something that applies electro very frequently, but each individual hit that you get on enemies won't be doing a lot of damage. It's mainly for applying electro. Her elemental skill also increases the elemental burst damage of any character while it's active. And the way that part of the ability works is the more energy that your character's burst costs, the more damage increase you will get while Baal's elemental skill is active. And Baal's elemental burst is quite complicated, to be honest, so make sure you pay attention to this part. So when you first cast her burst, she will do a large AoE slash in front of her, and this slash does a lot of damage. Now after that slash is over, for the next 7 seconds, all of your normal attacks will be doing electro damage instead of physical damage. These attacks will also restore a certain amount of energy to all of your characters. So think of her burst as doing a large nuke first, followed by a state of enhanced normal attacks that also support your team by restoring their energy. Now there's also a way that you can increase the damage of her burst, and the way that works is through a mechanic called Resolve. And how you gain Resolve is by using your other character's elemental burst. So every time you use a character besides Baal's elemental burst, she will gain a certain amount of stacks. And then when she casts her elemental burst, all of those stacks will be consumed, and those stacks will increase the initial slash of her burst in addition to the normal attacks she does during her burst. And the way you can keep track of the amount of resolve stacks you have is through a circle that will show up behind your character. The more complete that circle is, the more amount of stacks you have, and when you have max stacks, that circle will look complete on your screen. Now let's go over Raiden's talents. Her first talent affects her elemental burst, and more specifically the resolve mechanic. So how it works is every time party members gain elemental orbs or particles, including Raiden herself, Raiden will gain 2 resolve stacks. And remember, what resolve stacks do is increase the amount of damage Raiden's burst does when you use it. Her second passive is the more interesting and the best passive in her kit. So what it does is every point of energy recharge that you put on her through stats, artifacts, whatever means above 100% energy recharge, which is the base energy recharge that every character has, she converts some of that into electro damage bonus and converts some of that into greater energy restoration from your burst ability. So basically what this passive is telling you to do is build energy recharge. And luckily there are ways to get a great amount of energy recharge on her. The stat that Raiden gains from leveling up is energy recharge, up to 32% energy recharge through ascending her. You also can gain energy recharge from your weapon, through artifacts, and I will get into more detail what the best main stat and substats are and the rest of her build in a later video. But to keep in mind, if you're building her right now, just make sure that you are building some amount of energy recharge on her. It's going to be one of her best stats, if not her best stat. And then her third passive is, it's okay, it's better than other characters. Basically what it does is every time you ascend your weapons, specifically your swords and your polearms, the mora you spend is reduced by 50% on the ascension. Nothing game breaking or crazy. Wish it was a little more impactful, but it's fine. So basically her best talent, and the one to remember, is that she has a way to convert energy recharge into electro damage and into more energy restoration for her team after she uses her burst. So let's talk about Baal's best team comps. Now keep in mind, a lot of this is simply in theory, and we'll truly know for sure what's best for her once she's released. With that being said, let's get into the two teams that I believe she would be good on. So first would be a team with Eula. Why Eula? It's because Eula can actually make good use of electro reactions. Superconduct is the best reaction for Eula, and Raiden will be able to easily apply electro for a long period of time that Eula can take advantage of. Now, the second team is maybe not as obvious, but rather than pair her with any of the meta characters such as Ganyu, Hu Tao, or any of the strong Pyro and Cryo main DPSs, I would think she would work best in a quick swap burst team composition. And the reason for that is because both of her abilities, being her elemental skill and burst, benefit other characters' elemental bursts. So with quick swap, all that essentially means is you use one character's elemental skill and their burst, you swap out to the next character, and you keep repeating that cycle until the first character's burst and skill are back up. And this style doesn't really have a main damage dealer, so to say, like maybe Ganyu or Diluc, Hu Tao, etc. But one example team could be Team Archon, which is a team of Bennett, Zhongli, Venti, and now Raiden. And how that team would work is Raiden would sort of be the battery for the other three's ultimate abilities. She would boost them and deal significant amount of damage herself. Venti also would be a great battery for the team because Venti provides energy recharge to himself and the same element that his burst infused with. So for example, if you use Venti's burst and Raiden's burst, and let's say Venti infused Electro, Raiden would restore around 24 energy on her own, depending on your energy recharge, plus another 15 from Venti. That's almost 40 energy out of her 90 cost burst that would be restored to her, and that's before considering normal energy gains through elemental particles, other abilities, etc. So I believe this type of team comp will be really good for her on her release compared to pairing her with Pyro and Cryo characters, because right now she actively hurts Pyro and Cryo teams, to be honest. You don't really want your Ganyu or your Hu Tao to react with Electro instead of Vaporize or Melt if you care about dealing the most amount of damage. And that doesn't really matter in the overworld, but it could matter for clearing Spiral Abyss. And Electro is in, just frankly, it's in a terrible spot right now. The reactions are just not good. This could change in the future if they decide to buff Electro, but we have no proof of that. We don't know if that's going to ever happen. We, as a community, have no idea when MiHoYo and if MiHoYo decides to do that. So until then, she won't really fit well on your meta Pyro and Cryo teams. She will fit with Eula, and more importantly, she'll be a really good character for an elemental burst spam team. Team Archon is one example, but really you could use her with any characters whose bursts deal a lot of damage and are very good. So in summary, for team building, I would totally ignore the fact that she's Electro and totally ignore her reactions unless you are using her in a superconduct physical damage based team. And I would instead put her in a team that's focused around spamming elemental bursts off cooldown. And ideally, you want her in a team where the burst rotation can be set up in a way that every character besides Raiden can throw down their burst first, followed by Raiden's burst last, and by the time her burst ends, the other 3 characters will have their burst back up. And after they go through their rotation, then Raiden's burst comes back up, and then rinse and repeat. I think that would be the best team that I see her on when she comes out, barring any changes to Electro, of course. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all found it useful. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below what teams you're planning to use Baal with, and what you'd like to see in any future Genshin Impact videos. Feel free to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and thank you again. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care.